Hello everyone, we're back, all from holidays, various holidays.
All nice and tan.
Yep. And unfortunately we've not had time this week to do a soaring show for you guys, but we have got an interview. We interviewed Gordon Fandy a couple of weeks ago, and I've been waiting to release this video. And here it is. This is their flight where they went from Aboyne to Lasham in 2000
Early 2000s.
Early 2000s. It's a very exciting flight, and we hope you enjoy it. And next week the show resumes. We have got a few people who are willing to do an interview with us. Lucy Wootton's one of them, Andy Davis, and we've actually got G. Dell in the workshop this week, so we can potentially coax him into doing a video. So let us know who you'd like to hear from and what you'd like to know.
10 to 4 a.m. And that's kind of another part of the story, because we didn't just do this in isolation. We weren't self-launching or anything. So the folks up at Aboyne, Roy Ferguson Dowling was very helpful. We sort of bribed the tuggy the day before to give us a tow at that time of the morning to actually get up, and we'd rigged the glider and put it on the runway with all the covers on. So there's some pictures there, and it looks like really dark, and it was actually pretty dark. Getting ready to go and putting all the oxygen on and stuff. So there was all the help we had at Aboyne to get airborne at 10 to 4 a.m. And then there's towing out. Towing out was interesting. We had an aero tow. It wasn't particularly rough, but it was bloody dark. And you know you're having an adventurous flight when the street lights are still on, and then you see the sun come up, and you're on tow.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I think the sun came up actually whilst we were going about 4,000 or 5,000 feet. I think in wave. I think it's quite a long way after we took off. Yeah. Yeah,
it was really. I mean, it wasn't night. It was legal daylight, but it's pretty dark that time of day.
We're just going to see if we can screen record some of the trace.
Yeah. Okay, this is right. So we're crossing now, coming inland, and we're going for a wave bar on the trace. And right now there's no thermals. Do you have a timestamp on that anywhere?
It's just before 7 a.m.
So that is 8 a.m. local time.
Yeah,
it's too early, and that was just literally a hint of a wave bar. I think near the Kilda Forest, that sort of area.
It's north of there. Yeah, no.
Yeah, and we're just doing anything we can just to stay airborne. And right that very moment, I was thinking, "Oh, we should have gone witch flying."
Because you're not that high, you're just over 3,000 feet.
Yeah, and we're just literally in weak bar, just waiting for thermals to stay up, just waiting. And eventually, I think we worked our way down and started scratching in thermals at pretty low level.
Well, So
then it's Andy's turn.
Yeah, I think this is actually the critical point of the flight. This bit here about 8 a.m. where Gordon was flying, and we were just keeping up in wave, maintaining height, and then you took a cloud climb in like quite a sort of soggy looking cumulus.
Yes.
And it just was starting to get going, but it was pretty wet there. It rained a lot overnight, and we just managed to stay high by cloud climbing. So Gordon was flying with his instrument rating.
Yeah,
I just managed to stay alive.
Yeah, I think we're probably down to about 500-600 feet over the ground at the low point.
Yeah, that was when I was flying.
Yeah, we were low, and we got to cloud base at 1,500 feet. Oh, that ain't going to get us anywhere. So I think we went about probably 1,500 feet into cloud. And if you haven't flown number trees in cloud, it's actually quite a stable beast. But that made a big difference because we were able to have some choice as to what happened next.
Yeah.
So,
and presumably in the glides, you're gliding at best glider. You're just trying to maintain altitude on your way down south initially.
Yes, 60, 65 knots.
Yeah,
like that.
Survival. Because it really was barely sawable. It's still before 9 o'clock in the morning.
I think it's this bit of the trace now. So I think I'm flying again. So Gordon's kind of saved the day by keeping us airborne in the morning. And then we're running out into sort of clearer skies, but we're getting a bit low. And I think it's there. I don't know. It's hard to read the numbers.
It's over 2,000 feet.
Okay, maybe it's before there. But there was this bit where we were flying towards the hills at Kilda, and I could see a cumulus like over the hills. And we were getting a bit low really to start the engine safely. So if it hadn't worked, then it probably would have been land out on the heather, which was not been pleasant.
Sounds like fun.
And I was pulled under this queue at 600 feet above ground into a knot, and just climbed from there. And it was all gone a bit quiet in the back at that point. Gordon was Lasham CFI at that.
What was the plan for a land out? Like, if it hadn't worked and you had landed out, who was coming to rescue you? Bear in mind you were
No plan.
away from your
No plan.
No plan. You just worked it out.
Yeah. It would have been. We probably would have pushed the landing gear up and done a bit of damage. So, sometimes you have to be a bit young and stupid. And I certainly learned a lot. I wouldn't do that now, but we did it and it worked. And so here we are going past sort of Sunderland, Newcastle area. So again, we had to avoid the Newcastle zone. So we're just threading our way past the airspace, and it's getting better. The day's improving. It's clearly going to be quite a good gliding day.
Yep.
But some people are still having breakfast at this stage.
Yeah, what time of day is that now?
This is 9:30 UTC. So
it's 10:30 your time, and now we're away. It's we're I think probably feeling this is going to work probably because the day's getting predictable and tolerable.
Yep. And how did you decide who was flying?
I think I did. I was sitting in the front, Gordon was in the back, so I flew the first bit and got us into the wave. Actually, getting established in the wave, we just towed straight into the wave. So there was no interference with thermals at 4 a.m. in the morning, so just towed straight in and climbed. And then it was sort of half hour on, or 40 minutes on, 40 minutes off. So it just that's how it worked out.
Yeah, it worked well actually, and we discussed every decision. But ultimately, one of us has to make a decision, and that's whoever was flying at the time. So I think it's pretty well. It was half an hour each, all the way, pretty well, which worked well.
And it was regular sort of rustling in the back from Gordon eating Mars bar. And we've been on quite a rich diet for the whole week. So there was after above about 10,000 feet, they get a bit smelly. So open the windows.
Yeah, if you've done boeing, you know about the black-faced sheep, and of course, good. And there's curry bars and everywhere else. So
yeah. Thank goodness for
provisions, but maybe I don't want to know now.
Yeah, so we're sort of heading down towards York now, and then so this is where it could have gone all wrong because we had one logger, so we weren't very well prepared for this flight because we had one logger and one big battery in the glider, and we started getting low volts warning on the Volks logger, and it looked like the battery was going downhill, and then I think did we lose power for a bit? I think we did, didn't we?
We did for the tiny bit. We had an old-fashioned Bendix King, huge brick in the glider as a transponder, which was useful for getting airspace clearances. In Scotland, we crossed an airway, I think, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was 8 batteries at a huge rate. And we did have a second battery, but when we switched to it, it was a dry joint and didn't work, although it had worked previously in the week. So we then realised the battery we had pretty well flattened was our only battery.
Yeah, I remember you getting a Leatherman out and sort of. It's a bit like that bit in Airwolf where the guy in the back starts wiring the helicopter whilst it's on fire. And it was like hacking away at the battery pack to try and get the battery to come alive. And I think actually you did fix the problem. The power came back.
Yeah, it was very limited. I think we had enough now to know. I think the volts logger dropped out at 9.4 volts or something. And the reason the flight ended is I think we're down to about 9.8, 9.9 volts when we landed.
Yeah.
And we knew a logger trace, we knew the flight was dead. So that's the only reason we landed when we Lasham, others we turned around and gone back.
Yeah.
Most of the flight with no electrics at all, just purely just vario and altimeter and SI.
Jeez.
So we're trucking south here. We're going past Nottingham, and I think when we got towards sort of Milton Keynes area, we were seeing gliders coming north, having launched out of Lasham.
Yeah.
One of them was 954, which is Nimbus 3DT out of Lasham. I think Bruce Nicholson was flying
Bruce Nicholson was in it. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
And we joined them in a thermal. And it came on the radio saying, "Well, aren't you guys in Scotland?" It's like, "Nope, not anymore."
Where? Yeah. This is only 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so they're all a bit confused. Or 1:30, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're up in the peak of the soaring day. Meanwhile, you're not far away from landing.
Yeah. No, that's right. And this was the day I think Russell did 1,000 k out of Husbos, and Pete Harvey did a big flight up and down the country as well. So it was a very, very good soaring day. I think the last glider landed at Lasham just before 9 p.m.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So which was like Mike Clark doing a 750 in a Nimbus 4. So there were 6 hours more soaring in the day because we landed about 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Just before 3, yeah. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from Nottingham south, or from Newcastle south, really, it was just dead easy. We just had to stay high and not screw the thing up.
Mm.
We'll speak about it then.
Yeah. Well, speeding up.
When in terms of the planning that went into the flight, you said you talked about it in the past, doing it in the past. How much planning was there, the day before, the days leading up to the event?
Do you want to cover that, Gordon?
Yeah, the planning, I mean, the problem was escaping Scotland, is because you have that wall of airspace between Glasgow and Edinburgh, and your options are go through it, under it. Going under is not really an option unless you're really brave, because there's high terrain, and I think the airspace is 3,000 feet, and it hasn't changed from then to now. Or going around it. Going around it was never the plan. Had lots of negotiations, and before we took off with Scottish Air Traffic Control, and we had a plan. It was all good, and and we got there. And frustratingly, it really wasn't that busy in Edinburgh at the time, but the guys wouldn't let us through, and that scuppered that plan. So it was the main planning was actually just getting through the airways and getting out of Scotland. That was the biggest problem. And once you've done that, it's not an issue. I mean, that's the only reason I don't think this flight has been beaten since, is just you need to be high to get around the airspace.
Yeah.
I noticed only last week, I think Chris Gill did a flight from, I think, Port Mocha or Boyne to the Borders Gliding Club, and obviously he took exactly the same route to the east.
Yeah, he was talking the last time we spoke, actually on the show. He was talking about the fact that initially air traffic control wasn't very keen on him going through anywhere. And now they sort of made a relationship there, and they're sort of a bit more keen on and happy to let them through. So it just seems to be the case that they need to understand what's going on, because probably they hear glider airspace and they say no.
Yeah, no, I can understand the reticence to a degree.
Yeah. But we did. You can see on the trace there, we did have a clearance through. I think it's the Is it the P500 airway or P600, the one that goes up to Aberdeen? And that was arranged the day before, and I think we had the transponder on. I think that was a special VFR clearance or some sort of arrangement at the time for crossing that airway, and there was obviously no traffic that time of day either, which was helpful.
Yeah.
So if we hadn't been able to do that, that would have made the flight a lot harder.
And in terms of like getting the glider ready and provision stuff like that, was there any sort of thought to that, or was it a case of just send it?
Oxygen. We were hoping we could get a lot higher. So we had a lot of oxygen in the back. And of course, if we could got to 20,000 feet or something, that would have been so much easier. And temperature-wise, we knew the flight could vary from 0 to plus 25 in the cockpit. So it's quite hard to plan that. And if we're going to be airborne for 15 hours, we're going to need food and all that sort of stuff. So basically, as my son describes, the back of the cockpit is more like a floor drove of junk. In the cockpit, you can see there's littered around us on stuff that I was going to be passing forwards to have handy. And so on. And the worst bit was I actually had a Mars bar that was pretty cold when I got in the cockpit, and at the end of the flight it was just molten, obviously.
Yeah.
As a
so that picture, that's at Lasham after we landed. And in fact, there was a reporter there from the Alton Herald, wasn't there, Gordon? Do you remember? Doing an article. And so we got interviewed by the local paper, and and he wanted a picture, so we got all the stuff that we had in the glider and laid it out and said, that's what you need for flying from Scotland to Lasham. So there we were then at Lasham, with all our stuff still in a Boyne.
Yeah.
And so we tossed a coin to see who would get the lucky job of going and get the car back. And I'm happy to say I won that toss. So, so Gordon got on an EasyJet and flew up to Aberdeen, and you can take the story from there, Gordon.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I got a very kind of Boeing member came and got me, gave us a lift, and I got in my car, drove the empty trailer, and I was a very old Mark II Land Rover Discovery, and unsurprisingly started having problems on the way back. I suddenly discovered the gearbox selector was no longer connected to the gearbox. So that was about an 8-hour fix on the road job, actually, by the AA. He did a fantastic job. Eventually got back after a day and a half driving. So
a day and a half? Jeez.
Yeah, because I literally spent a Boeing to Lasham with a trailer is quite a long trip. Then had a 8-hour wait whilst the Boeing, whilst the AA actually were able to fix my gearbox selector on the Land Rover, which was the whole inside the car out and everything else because they had nowhere getting a trailer, so it's easy to fix it. So yeah, it's a bit of a disaster in that aspect. So.
And so you'd planned to take that week off to go flying in a Boeing. Was this flight at the end of that week, or did you just decide to spend the rest of the week at Lasham from that point?
It was the end of the week.
Oh, that's convenient.
Yeah, it was the end of the week.
So lucky with the weather.
Yeah.
What a great way to wrap up the trip.
Yeah, no, it was.
What's the next way to get home?
And from looking at the airspace on this flight, it looks like there's no reason someone couldn't replicate this flight today. It doesn't look like the airspace has changed significantly around Scotland and coming into England.
No, I mean, if anything, the flights have probably got easier. I mean, the performance of gliders has generally got better. More gliders are capable of self-launching, so you don't have to get a whole team to get you out of bed in the morning. And obviously, with modern avionic, everything else, so airspace clearances are easier. I think air traffic controllers are getting a bit more used to glider pilots now as well. So the only reason that flight hasn't been broken, I think, is just people are scared of the logistics.
Yeah.
That sounds like a challenge to the Scottish Wave Warriors and Chris Gill. Chris Gill.
Well, it sounds like there's not much planning to do. You just sort of got in and did it. So
Yeah, I don't know. Perhaps we'd be sort of being a bit lightweights about that, but yeah, we were sort of thinking about the details. I'd say at least 3 days ahead. Looking at, seeing what the forecast was looking at, and all the forecast was in those days was the surface pressure charts. The Met Office. Surface pressure and front charts, and you could just see the situation was developing quite nicely, and so all our thoughts then were on like what should the flight be like and how do we prepare for it. So I'd say there's probably at least 2.5 days quite detailed planning at what did go into it.
Yeah, there was a lot of planning.
I'm just going to bring up a picture from the cockpit in the flight. Just wanted to look a bit more at the equipment that you were flying with at the time.
Yeah. There we go. So this is on tow, going down the Dee Valley at about 5 to 4 in the morning. Obviously, this is pre-iPhone, so that's with the digital cam with the flash, which makes it look a lot darker outside than it actually was. And you can see the wave system above the mountains there. So in terms of equipment, we had a Volkslogger, an L-Nav, with this sort of audio vario bit on the side, and winter vario, and that's about it.
And so no moving map, nothing to sort of display where the airspace was.
I might have had a Garmin Pilot 3 in my pocket or something.
Yeah, I think we did have something to show us where the airspace was, so we could just go around the east side of the Edinburgh TMA. So I didn't have that in the front. I think you had that, Gordon.
Yeah, I think I have a Garmin Pilot 3, a battery powered one of those, which is at the time a really good moving map. Most it is.
We're still finding a lot of them in gliders today that were gradually being upgraded.
Yeah.
Well, I've only just ripped my L-Nav out of my glider.
And that's yeah, they're good bits of kit. That's on the runway. I think that's in the morning, so we'd left it with the covers on. So that's me giving a thumbs up. And that is proper dark. This is obviously still nighttime. Just getting the glider ready.
Mm-hmm.
And who was the crazy tow pilot that was up for this idea?
That's Gordon.
Her name was Diana Kyordos, and she was hours building, and she's now a captain for I think some Hungarian airline, Wizz Air, I think. So obviously worked out for her well. So eventually,
Do you reckon she mentioned that in her job interview?
I'm not sure. No, we say friends afterwards. I've lost touch with her now, but yeah. So, but yeah, it is all thanks to a team of people. We couldn't have done it on our own. Impossible.
And the declaration, if I remember right, was written in paper and then left in Roy Ferguson-Dalling's office, who was the CFI at Boeing. So he just posted it through the letterbox and got on the glider and went.
Yes, there were no online declarations in those days.
Yeah, and that's the crossing the Firth of Forth. So it's a bit like going over the Channel. It's probably a little bit shorter, but it looks a long way when you're in a glider.